Keys to the Commonwealth, a podcast where we share the real stories of local community members who are using real estate to build personal wealth, along with tips and tricks from professionals across the industry. And now, your host, Landry Fields.
Welcome, everyone, to the Keys to the Commonwealth podcast. Today's show is going to be a great one with another local community member that works closely here with the real estate community. And my guest today is the owner and partner with Building the Bluegrass and has been in the real estate industry for 7 years now. Born and raised right here in Lexington, he received his degree in landscape architecture. He is married to his wonderful wife, Erica, and together they have Asher, who is 9, Judah, who is 3, and Eden, who is 2. I am honored to welcome my friend Joey Svec today to the Keys to the Commonwealth studio. Joey, thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Yes, absolutely. So like we like to start every episode here at the Keys to the Commonwealth podcast, hop back in the DeLorean and tell me, how did you get into real estate and investing and all the things that you all do with Building the Bluegrass?
Well, sure. Real estate was something that was actually discouraged to get into back in the college days, right? There's a lot of agents out there, and so local people were telling me not to get into it.
Yeah.
So I finished my degree in landscape architecture, and then I ran off to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and worked for an international design firm.
Really? For
a long time, and had the fortune to design and help construct some 4- and 5-star hotels down in the Caribbean.
Very interesting.
So then
you got to go visit those places too while doing it, right? Okay.
Yes. So I was in the Bahamas with the Atlantis Hotel, and then my longest stay was in Anguilla Island. I was there for almost a year, building the Viceroy, which is now the Four Seasons down there. It's a really cool property. That's
awesome, actually. Mm-hmm. I did not know that about you.
Yeah.
You're saving that for me.
Yeah, just keeping that in my back pocket. But after that, my wife, she actually brought us back to Lexington. She's not from here, but she's from the north, and so this was a good place climate-wise, and we have family here. And then after I was doing landscape architecture here for about 5 years, my wife said, "Hey, why don't you go chase this dream?"
Yeah.
And so her discernment and her kind of opening the door for me, let me go do that. And then to catch you up to today, we started a company about 3 years ago called Building the Bluegrass, and that's me and 2 other partners. Right. Guys I've known for a long time, and we have very similar beliefs and backgrounds. So we decided to start a company that kind of plays off the design world of multidisciplinary. So in the design profession, you could have an office that has architects, engineers, structurals, landscapes, all these consultants within one office. So we did that with a brokerage. We came up with a multidisciplinary brokerage that has real estate, construction, and then landscape as well, landscape and design.
As I'm sure that kind of fits a lot like what you just said as far as your former thing down in Fort Lauderdale, where I'm sure there was a team of different aspects of people. So kind of just playing off that, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, the idea of collaborating with different firms and different companies. Yeah. But we can bring it all into one under one roof, and we can be a one-stop shop for everything property.
So yeah, walk down that a little bit further as far as what you all offer, what you all do, as far as that goes. Who your clientele is, as far as obviously there's a lot of people just looking for a house, which is pretty typical, which is fine. But you guys offer a lot more than just that. So
we do. We help people buy and sell houses every day. We've got a staff of about 12 agents, and we're going to grow that staff over the next couple of years to about 20. We're going to stay boutique. So we help people buy and sell houses every day on the open market. But we also have the ability to take raw land and develop that land, take clients through the planning process. Okay. And we try to find, in any property we work with, we try to find what we call the highest and best use. Okay. And so what that does is that allows us to look at the property and say, okay, you've got raw land, what's the best use for that land? Or you've got a house and it needs to be renovated before it goes on the market. What's the best renovation that we can get, that we can do for you for the best yield?
To maximize the profit off that yield.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
So a lot of renovation aspect. Then it's somebody would come in and say, I'm looking for a fixer-upper type of scenario. You guys, I assume, do some of those things as well.
Yeah, HGTV special right here. Yeah, that's right. So we can help them find the property to renovate. We can run that property through a pro forma for them so that we understand how the numbers are going to fall towards the end of the day. I mean, markets are changing every day. But the idea is we want our clients to be well-educated up front so that when they're on the back end, they're very successful.
Sure. Because there's a lot of opportunity in equity of the home type of thing to fix it up. Like we're currently renovating our kitchen personally, as a way to, one, it needed updating, but two, we knew that we could get that money back. Like, so that wasn't just a sunk cost and investing into it and to at least get the money back, if not grow that money in type of scenario. So, well, that's pretty cool. As far as, transitioning, what was that transition like, from probably more of a steady paycheck thing to more similarly to my world in insurance, kind of like kind of have to build a book of business kind of scenario. So what was that transition like?
So I worked for 2 years with 2 jobs, right? I had my day job with landscape architecture here in town, and then I would go, after that, at 6 o'clock, I would go to the real estate office, and I would start making phone calls and just touch my sphere. And I did that for 2 years, and then eventually became I had a wonderful employer at the time that allowed me to change my hours towards the end of that 2 years. And so I was able to come in, and eventually I was only working half days. And then I just told them, look, I can't keep doing this. Like, I've got to put my time towards my own business.
Eventually you got to just make the jump.
That's right.
Feet type of thing for sure. So, well, that's cool.
Real estate is not something that I typically encourage people to just jump both feet into. There's about an 85% dropout rate in the first year. And so
85%, I didn't think I'd heard that number.
Yeah, it's really high. So first-time agents, they usually have trouble getting traction.
Yeah.
And so I like to take those first 6 months to a year with a brand new agent and ease them into the process and educate them on what to do. Yeah.
I mean, it can be scary, that's for sure. Jumping into real estate, especially full-time like that. So, yeah, I do have, as far as the renovation here, and I want to talk a little bit more about that, some of the ways you guys do that with your clients, or some of the properties. Maybe you've got some examples you can come up with, but is shiplap still in? Please tell me it's not.
Well, it is still happening.
It's still happening.
It's still happening. Anytime you see something go from TV to Lowe's, it's coming on its way out, right? That's the reality.
That's
of
right.
It. But it is still happening some.
Everybody was like, let's put a barn door. And then we were like, that doesn't look great anymore.
Yeah, let's put a barn door in a bathroom and you can't lock it, right?
Yeah.
So, they have challenges out there.
No, so you guys just talked about a little bit more with that. Are there any examples of what you all been doing as far as that goes, or the remodel side of things, or just what if you had a client coming in and saying, I'm looking for this, or I want to try to maximize. What does that process look like for you?
We used to. It's all client driven, right? So we don't do anything without a client. We're not a spec builder. We do some flips on our own, and we do investment property on our own, but we're not a mass builder, right? So we always sit down with our clients. We really try to drill down and see what they're after, right? Are they after a flip that they're looking for a rate of return on? Are they after a renovation for their own use? Because there's a big difference, right? I mean, you can overbuild $1 million house, right? You can overbuild $1 million renovation. But if it's something you really want, you're going to live with, then by all means, let's get you what you want. But if you're looking for something that needs a rate of return that you're going to get out of in a year or 2 years, 3 years, whatever it may be, then let's look at that with the right eye, and let's look at that in the right perspective. So we always sit down and we really try to figure out what our clients want and what their needs are. And then we take them through a design process. Yeah. It's hard to build when you don't have a design. And, clients all the time, they say, well, just build it. Just renovate my kitchen. Well, that's great. Let's do that. Yeah, and we will. But let's take the right steps and make sure we're building the right thing, because the worst thing we can do is get into the middle of a renovation. Yeah. And you're not liking the way it's going, or liking the way the outcome's going to be. So we always like to take a step back, really make sure the plans are flushed out, and then we can do the right steps after that.
Obviously, if you're updating your house like I am, you can use equity that's already built in there with an equity line, et cetera. If somebody's wanting to come in, purchase a property, and do renovation right away, what are some of those formats or ways people structure that?
Yeah, some people have the capital, some people have the cash just to do it. Some people they can build it into their loan. They can get construction loans to do these things. So we're working with a client right now that's building with us, and they've got a construction loan to go do it. That's outside of a typical 30-year mortgage. Right. There are renovation loans as well that you can get. So,
we'll definitely be exploring more of those with some of the mortgage people.
Yeah. If you do currently own your house, like you said, and you have built-in equity, you can go get a HELOC and pay for it cash out of your HELOC. And
home equity line of credit for those who may not know. One of the things we were talked about, and I had not been familiar with this, I know there's some either recent change or it's being discussed, and maybe you can clarify some of that as far as kind of especially specific to the Lexington area. I don't know if Louisville has done this yet or not. Maybe they haven't. I can't speak to that. But new zoning guidelines for something called infill redevelopment and so forth. Can you talk about that? What is it? What's happening with that?
I think so. Lexington has an infill and redevelopment area. They take the map of Lexington, Fayette.
That's a new area?
No,
right?
That's been around.
It's
the
been around.
Infill and redevelopment area has been around for a long time. But what they've done is they've added a new zone. It's called ADUs.
Okay.
It's additional dwelling units. And so Lexington, for a long time, whether you like planning and zoning or not, it's there for the benefit of the community.
Sure.
And for a long time, single-family houses, they've been really strict on second dwellings in a single-family zone.
Second dwellings being like
a mother-in-law suite.
Yeah, a freestanding structure that's separate.
A freestanding, or let's say you've got an unfinished basement, and you want to convert that basement into a son or daughter dwelling while they go to college.
Right.
Well, you couldn't put a kitchen in there. The zoning regulations here in Fayette County wouldn't allow you to put a full kitchen in. You can only get 3 appliances. So,
really?
And a sink's considered an appliance. So you could have a sink, a stove, and a refrigerator, but you couldn't have an oven, all right? Or you can have a wall oven. So it became really tricky, right? If you have a microwave and a sink and a refrigerator, that's all you could have in your kitchen. So it makes it pretty limited. And so what they've recently done is the ADUs allow a second dwelling on a single-family property.
Okay.
Now, there are some caveats to it. There's lots of regulations around it. But like for one instance, you have to live on the property. So the primary resident has to live there, and then they could rent or have a mother-in-law or a son or daughter in the other dwelling on the same property.
So you could theoretically rent out your basement or something like that. Maybe if there was a secondary walk-in.
You could adapt your basement. You could do an addition to your house. You could even do a freestanding structure as long as it's, I think, under 800 square feet.
Okay.
So there are lots of options for the ADUs, and it is a way to look at your property and say, okay, well, look, I don't want to move, but I need a little help with a passive income.
Yeah.
So how can I do that? Well, we could build an ADU for you, additional dwelling unit.
It's kind of like an alternative to, buying a duplex, renting out one side for income kind of thing. You could honestly, you could kind of build in a lot of equity within the property, I assume, because are they considered still one property in some respects, but with two, an A and B address? Or
they're one property. You cannot subdivide it, so you can't take and say, okay, well, I've got a quarter acre, and I'm going to put an 800 square foot and then subdivide that and sell it. You can't do that. And there's some deed restrictions to it. You have to do some deed work, so we'll have to get an attorney involved to make sure things are done right there. There's, like I said, there's lots of regulation behind it, and I think over time those regulations will loosen. Yeah. But I think it's a really good first step for Lexington. Yeah. Right. They looked at bigger cities that have ADUs, and they've adapted that and introduced that to us, which I think is a really good thing for us. Especially because I don't know if Lexington has what's called the urban service boundary.
Yes.
A lot of people don't know what that is. So the urban service boundary is basically like a circle around the city, and then the county, or what used to be the county, is still horse farm.
Right.
And we're not allowed as developers and builders, we're not allowed to develop subdivisions outside of that urban service boundary. We've got the oldest one in the country.
Is it really the oldest one in the country?
Yeah.
Because, that is part of the charm of Lexington. So I guess at some point there's like a breaking point there or something like that, as we've been expanding quite a bit over the last few years.
We don't want to use up all our natural resource, right? Right. And what we're known for horses and bourbon, right? And so we don't want to lose that. Right. But you can't have tight constraints on the outside without loosening the inside.
That's a great point in that respect. Because, you talk about mother-in-law suite or renting out something, because then I assume there's no restrictions on you should be able to potentially then rent it out as a short-term rental if you even wanted to, based upon location.
There are some regulations around short-term rentals with these, and you can do it. I think
specifically to these, you're saying?
Specifically with the ADUs, there is language in there about short-term rental. They are looking for a mid to long-term rent person, and there are even regulations on the number of people that can be in these spaces. Okay. So that, like I said, there's a lot. Like if somebody's interested in it, we ought to just sit down and go through it and look at your property and see if it's a good fit. But it's a good introduction to Lexington, I think.
Yeah, the short-term rental market has definitely forced a lot of, we need to reevaluate. Because there was really no structure or rules for anything regarding that, really, at the end of the day. So back to the service boundaries and stuff like that with Lexington, how do you think that changes the investment opportunities in the area as far as now loosening those guidelines and so forth, or being able to build secondary structures on that? It's like, I think it's going to be a good thing, I would assume, as far as that goes for the continued growth of Lexington and kind of pivoting sometimes maybe the way the opportunity for investing in property would be here, since obviously, as we know, investing in property, especially in Lexington is it's getting harder and harder in a lot of ways. I would assume. So, what are your experiences with
we
that?
have to get creative. Historically we've got a performer we run properties through, and a lot of my investors aren't buying in Lexington anymore because properties aren't meeting the requirements that they have for either cash on cash return or cash flow. There's several things we look at when we look at a property to purchase for investment. And so a lot of my traditional investors are starting to look in the surrounding counties.
Yeah.
A lot of my younger investors, my newer investors, they're saying, well, let's push the limits and let's look at how we can take a property and reevaluate it, and do an add value. You buy a single family property and it doesn't cash flow the way you want, but I can add an ADU to it. Well, now I'm making more in cash flow than I ever would have under the traditional performer that we've got.
So there are opportunities for the ADU to not live it? I thought you had to live in it, kind of thing.
Well, you do have to live there.
That's what you mean by pushing the
right. But so if you think about it and you say, okay, well, I'm going to live in a duplex.
Yeah.
Right, and I'm going to live in half of it, and I'm going to rent the other half.
Right.
That property should perform.
Sure.
But with the way Lexington's going right now, that property is now worth, I'm seeing duplexes go for $235,000. That used to be $120,000.
Yeah.
Right. So that property no longer is performing, even if you rent it out both sides.
Yeah.
It no longer has a cash flow that's positive. Right. Because rent's still at $700 to $800.
Yeah.
Right. And it's making it hard to cash flow. So what we can do is we can take a young investor that wants to buy their first or second property, put them in the main house, and build an ADU, and that ADU will cash flow better than I can with a duplex that's rented on both sides.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting how that's changing some things with that. Because, as far as I'm assuming one of the things I think I've seen, or that I know of you all have done as well, and I don't think I'd ever really would think it would have started here, but I think we're starting to see it now where, coming in, taking an older home and just totally demolishing the whole home just to rebuild a new home.
Yeah, we are. We're doing a lot of that too. And I
don't think that was as popular, here in this market, but now that we have such an influx of cash, people with lots of cash on their hand can move in here, this area. I think we're starting to see it a lot more, right?
Yeah, we're doing that right now down in the Montclair area. It's been going on for several years.
Okay.
It's a client that I helped originally with a different builder, and I was helping him just sell the properties.
Yeah.
And then it became, once we opened up our construction arm, he ended up hiring us to build, and we've now been successful in building houses for independent clients down there.
Okay.
As well as the investor that we have down there that's still buying, demoing, rebuilding, and then reselling. So it's an interesting.
Wow. So that reminds me a lot of Nashville, because I got real estate, realtors and investors into the Nashville area where, that's been a big thing down there for a long time, as far as like coming in older homes, taking it, demolishing it, and rebuilding. So we're already seeing that start.
This particular
here.
investor is actually he has his wife's family's from Nashville. He lived in Atlanta for a long time, so he's pulling ideas from these bigger markets and bringing it here. Which
I'm sure it's only going to grow. I would assume.
Absolutely.
As far as so because you always get this feeling, or especially if you're new property investing like myself, you always think, well, I'm too late to the market. It's why even do it? But as we've seen, or especially as Nashville, other major cities have seen, as we continue growth, it's only going to continue to pivot or change how those opportunities exist or come about. It's not really ever too late. It's just a matter of finding. I think so. Talk to me about that as far as someone wanting to get into starting or growing like kind of the real estate portfolio or some of these things like that. Is there any other advice that you have, or if somebody wanted to talk to you all about that, maybe on the infill?
We'd be happy to talk to anybody, and we always like to sit down with clients, like I said before, even if they're just renovating a kitchen or a bathroom, especially if they're going to buy an investment property or get into investments. We want to sit down and educate them the best we can, and then we'll educate each other as we go. We're always learning. But, the biggest advice I would have is get around people that have done this before. Yeah. I have a lot of people, residential real estate, when you think about investments, it's one of the easiest real estate investments to get into. Sure. You think about commercial deals or industrial deals; those are much higher capital. Yeah. You think about, I came from the resort world, right, and hotels and roofs. So that's a huge capital that you've got to have built up to be able to do those projects, or you got to go find partners to do it. And so there's a lot of people that have 20% of $200,000, right, and they can go out, or they've got cash to buy a $200,000 property, and so you end up with a high density of people. So supply and demand, right? You end up with a high density of people that want these investment properties. So you need to get around people that have done it before.
Sure.
And then get with good lenders, get with good insurance guys, get with good realtors that know what they're doing, so they can speak life into you and how to do this, right? Or else you could end up.
Because theoretically, it's still a low entry point in our area. It's harder to find some of the deals, but relatively nationally, it's still for the market we have. It's in Central Kentucky. It's a pretty rapidly expanding as far as market. People moving here and so forth. So the opportunity's there, and relatively lower entry point still when you think of it.
That's one thing that always intrigues me about Lexington. I grew up here, but you look at having lived in Florida and lived in Chicago a little bit, but having seen the bigger markets, Lexington is in a bubble. It's in a nice, secure. I don't mean a bubble that's going to pop. It's in a nice, secure little area.
Okay.
Right. We're not the California market. Right. We're not the Florida market. Even if you look back historically at 07, 08, we did see prices for some houses. They bought at the peak of that. It took them a couple of years to come out of that, but they were able to come out much faster than if you lived in Florida.
Sure.
And so we see that. And so as prices continue to rise, we always kind of look back and say, okay, well, historically, we know there's going to be a downturn somewhere, but Lexington's probably not going to downturn. It's just going to plateau.
Yeah, that's what I've been kind of thinking, or everybody I talk to, I think worst case, it plateaus maybe a little bit with maybe rising rates over the course of 2022 or something like that. But
the other thing that's really positive out there is I see a lot of cash flying around. In 08, we saw a lot of really good people getting bad loans. Yeah. Right.
Whereas that's true. This one's getting driven by actual cash versus.
Yeah. What we're seeing now is cash whether they're getting cash from mom and dad or whether they're getting cash from their 401k, wherever they're getting cash from, doesn't really matter. The fact is they're putting cash into that property.
Right.
And when you've got cash in a property, you're not going to let it go until you can get your cash back out.
Yeah.
And that's going to keep the market up.
I totally agree. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see where we are 10 years from now here in Lexington. We think prices are crazy now. Again, they obviously historically usually just continue to grow in a lot of ways. So never too late. Now, investment properties. You're personally invested in investment properties and so forth. Talked about what was your first one, if so?
So my very first one is I still have it.
Okay.
My wife and I own it. It was my first property I ever lived in. It was
okay. So just taking the original property and moving out of it and keeping it as the first one.
So my parents made a sweet deal. So any of you parents out there that are getting ready to have kids in college, this worked for us well. My parents made a deal with me. They said, if you stay home your first year of college, don't move into the dorms. Just stay home. They basically took that.
Parents lived here, and
parents lived here in Lexington,
and you went to college
and
here.
I went to college in the UK, so it worked out well there, right? But they said, if you stay home, we'll put a down payment down on a house for you. So that's what they did. Stay home my first year of college. The second year, that summer, we went and found a house. They did the down payment, and then I took care of the mortgage after that. And so it put me into my first property.
Yeah.
When I moved to Florida, I had somebody managing it for me. And then when we came back, we took over that management. And that was our first rental property. So it was my first house, turned into my first rental property, and that kind of started everything off. I now have partnerships with other people, and we have several rentals between my wife and I and other partnerships.
Yeah. Mostly long-term rentals.
Absolutely. Yeah. We don't do much. We don't do any Airbnb at this point.
Okay.
That's not really. That's more hands-on than I personally want to be.
Sure.
I know there's there's really good management companies here in town that can handle that stuff for you.
They'll be on the podcast. That's where I got them on the list here for sure. That's one of the things me and my business partner will be doing some of that too, as far as managing short-term rentals at some point here. So we'll be learning more about that. Now, what's every realtor or people investing in property have got crazy stories. So what's one of your craziest things you've seen or happened to you in the real estate business or investing business?
I try
or even building business, I guess.
I try not to be around crazy too much, right? That's like
that's a life motto right there.
Yeah, that's right.
Try not to be around
especially
crazy
in construction and real estate, you don't want to be around too much crazy. But unfortunately, I have walked into more than one house and found people sleeping.
That's just always got to be unnerving.
Thankfully, I haven't seen anybody in the restroom or something, or taking a bath or anything like that. Thank goodness. But it is a little unnerving when you walk in and somebody's sleeping there, and you're like, hey, we got a showing going on here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Needless to say, I've never had a client buy a house that we saw somebody sleeping in.
It's never worked out.
Worked out well. Yeah.
Yeah. I know one of our conversations, and it kind of applies to what you were talking about as far as builder, the insurance, since that's obviously what pays my bills, is the builder's risk side of things. And especially somebody renovating, or that can be kind of an interesting aspect as far as that goes, especially whether you're, and it's all unique based upon whether you're tearing the house down, rebuilding it kind of thing, versus building on a whole new section of that type of thing. But usually, just talking to an insurance advisor is usually what we would definitely suggest, where they can work with a lot of different carriers. Usually that's just an added aspect that you build onto the policy or add onto the policy for a period of time, and basically covers more or less the material when it's not attached to the house. This is really the kind of easy way to think about that.
As a company, we have insurance. Of course, we have liability, workers' comp, all those kind of things. But we actually get a builder's risk policy on every property we work on.
Okay, so you guys carry that. So either way, you can go. You can carry it. The
homeowner can carry it. We can carry it.
Exactly.
And sometimes we cost share that. Sometimes we pass that directly on our clients. Right. It just depends on our contract structure. But it's something we always have in place.
Yeah. Because generally, for those that don't know, it's basically, again, covering material that's not installed in the house yet at that point. So if you got stuff laying around or so forth, you got wood was at an all-time high premium there for a while. If someone just decided to take a carload of wood and gold, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean that's still a real thing, right? Lumber's still high. We're very careful about when we do material drops. It used to be you would just drop material. I mean, you could have a tub sitting in a house for a week or so before the plumber showed up. Well, not anymore.
Somebody would come in and steal tubs now as well.
Well, they'll take anything.
That's true. Some people will take things. You're like, why would you even take this?
Anytime you have inflation like this, things are going to disappear. So we're always very cautious with that, and that's builder's risk helps. Ease that burden if anything happens.
What are some of the professional or personal goals that you got going towards 2022?
Well, I'm not going to share a lot of those yet because my wife and I, we do a date night every year. Okay. And we haven't done that date night yet.
You do a date night once a year? Is that
well, just one, yeah. Well, let's hope it's more than once a year. Yeah. But we do a date night once a year for our goals, and we always break it down into professional, personal, and then spiritual goals. Yeah. So we take a look at that. We look at the previous year, and how we did with those goals, and then we look at what we're going to do moving forward and as a family. Yeah. So we haven't had that date night yet this year, so I'm not going to share too much, but I will share with the business. We are a boutique company, and we're starting to change the way we think about goals. Okay. And so a lot of times we set goals like, I want to have, $20 million in closings this year as a real estate agent, right? And that calculates to so many closings. We're changing that this year, and we're starting to think about how much do we want to give away as a company, and then we back that out and say, okay, this is how many closings we have to have, or we want to give away X number of dollars. This is how many. Yeah. This is how many renovations we have to do. Yeah. Right. So we're trying to change the way our culture thinks in our company, and awesome. How we set goals. Yeah.
Nice. What are you all currently watching on TV? Anything good right now?
Well, we don't watch a lot of TV, but we. Right now, we're going through Seinfeld again.
There we go.
Your younger listeners aren't going to know what Seinfeld is, but
it's a show about nothing.
That's right.
But it's the best. Yeah,
it is. Yeah, usually I fall asleep during it, but that's what we put on at night.
Gotcha.
If we've got some downtime.
So I always ask usually about favorite trip that you all have taken. So is that one of these work location trips, or is there something else?
Favorite trip would have to be. The office I worked in went to the Turks and Caicos a lot. Yeah. I never worked in the Turks, but my wife and I went there for our 5th year.
It's in the Caribbean?
It is, down in the Caribbean. We went there for our 5th year wedding anniversary. Okay. Had a really good time. Ended up, by chance, some of our good friends were down there at the exact same time. Okay. And we had a blast, right? So we were just running all over the island.
Okay, for a 5th year anniversary, not if it was your first, your honeymoon type of thing. Right? Like, yeah. You don't want friends around for your honeymoon.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Well, yeah, when you're in your 5th year, things are a little different. But no, we had a great time there. We would love to go back. That was probably one of our best vacations. Anguilla, where I lived there for almost a year. I would love to go back there someday. Sure. And just revisit all the work we did down there. And my wife actually had we were engaged at the time, but she had an opportunity to come down to Anguilla, and we had. I think she came down for about a week when I lived down there. And so she got to experience that to some degree, but it'd be nice to go down again and experience it from a different perspective.
Yeah. When kids are grown or able to be a little easier to go away from a week type
That's
of
right.
thing.
You can't go many places with a 2-year-old.
Yeah, no. What's one of your favorite date night restaurants locally then?
Yeah, we have a couple. Epping's is one of our favorites.
On East Side?
Yeah, Epping's on East Side, down on Walton.
Haven't been there in a long time. Sometimes you don't remember. You're like, is that place still around? It's like, I'm glad to hear it's still there.
That's one of our staples, or that's one of our favorites. One of our staples, I'll have to say, is probably Jay Alexander's.
Okay.
We're on the south side of town and go over there a lot. And we used to go to Jay Alexander's a lot when we lived down in Florida.
Okay.
And so it's kind of, something we've been involved with, a place we've gone for a long, long time.
Yeah. What's your first car you owned?
First car was a Ford Mustang.
As a teenager?
As a teenager, yeah. It was a let's see if I can get this right. I think it was a 1986 4-speed.
Yeah, that's
four-cylinder.
That's what I tell people not to do for their children when they're insuring their first-time drivers is buying them a Mustang.
Well, it was an older Mustang.
That's true.
My dad was always really he's a handyman here in town, but he's always been really good mechanically, and so he bought that car for me. And then I ended up getting into Jeeps. He was a big Ford guy. I ended up getting into CJ5s. And, still have one today.
Growing up in Kentucky, moved away, so definitely. I think there's things that we appreciate having either traveled more outside of the state or moving back here that we probably didn't appreciate growing up here, type of thing. So, what are some of your favorite things about Kentucky, or if somebody was? Sometimes people are like, Kentucky, what? Why
it's interesting. You grow a lot when you leave and come back.
Yeah.
Right? You bring a lot of knowledge back with you. It is interesting to always, when I came back, how much the area had changed and how much the area, some things hadn't changed. But one thing we learned when we were away is how to appreciate where we're at.
Yeah.
So when we were down in Florida, we loved to go to the Keys. We loved to go to Naples. We would go up to, Fort Myers. We'd just go on weekend trips. And so here in Kentucky, we do the same thing. We try to go on horse tours. We try to go, just afternoon excursions. We'll go out to Windstar, or we'll go to a bourbon distillery, just check it out for the day, and then come back.
It's amazing what you can get to pretty quick in this area as far as the diverse aspect of different things.
Yeah.
So very cool. Last question here. As far as how people can get in touch with you all at Building the Bluegrass, or if they're interested in buying, selling, doing some of the things we talked about today. What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Just call my cell phone. That'd probably be the easiest way. 859-321-5196. You can always email me, jsvec at btb-ky.com. And we just launched a new website about a month ago.
Okay.
And you can go on there and it's buildingthebluegrass.com.
Okay.
You can go on there and see all that we do, and you can request appointments to there as well.
There's some cool videos on there for sure.
We do, we've got some.
Check out what you all do.
Yeah, got some good projects on there, and then some good events that we've had with our clients.
Awesome, Joey. Appreciate you coming on the show today and joining us here. So, thanks for listening, and we look forward to having everyone back next week on another insightful episode of the Keys to the Commonwealth podcast.
To learn more about this podcast, visit our page at keystothecommonwealth.com. To connect with Landry regarding insuring your investment portfolio, email Landry at novainsuranceGroup.com or call 859-687-2004.